Hi friends, my name is Lindsey and I run the blog Books for Christian Girls, and welcome back to the little corner of the internet where I talk mainly about Christian fiction. Today I am very excited to say I have a tag video, so thank you so very much to my sweet two BookTube friends Rachel over at Rachel Reads and Sarah over at Sarah's Tangled Tales for tagging me to do the Contradictions Book Tag. I've been seeing this tag go around and it just looks like so much fun, so thank you both so much for tagging me. I'm so excited. I will link their channels and their videos down below so y'all can check them out. And let's get started. Okay, quick little note though. Love and hate are used a lot in these questions, and that's totally fine. I just want to let y'all know that those are really strong words in my opinion, so I don't necessarily hate any of these books. Dislike, sure, of the ones that are, you know, that it says I hate, I disliked. But love, I have to give a book 5 stars for me to love it. So just a note, those are very strong words in my opinion, and I'm an overthinker, so I overthink things. And yeah, just wanted to give that little disclaimer. Question number 1, I love this genre, but I didn't like this book. Here's the thing, contemporary Christian YA, I adore. That's just, I don't know, that's what got me into the Christian fiction genre because of like the Robin Jones Gunn, Kirsty Miller series and Krista McGee's contemporary books. So it's kind of like going back to my roots. So I love contemporary YA. One book I didn't like the first time I read it was So Not Happening by Jenny B. Jones. And then I think a couple years ago I read the revised version with this cute cover. And there was a bonus scene at the end that just very much kind of went against something I feel very strongly about. And I don't agree that that should have been in a Christian fiction book, or how it was portrayed is okay kind of thing. I'm being very vague. That's because this is the internet and I don't have that much time to monitor these comments that closely. So I'm being a little vague, but I do have my review that talks about that I will link down below because I was not happy with that. And honestly, the first time I read this book, I wasn't a fan of it just because of what was the main reason. I don't remember the main reason. I know I typically struggle with Jenny B. Jones's books because of the adult ones she writes typically have quite a bit of innuendos, and apparently more so now with some of her newer books. But with her YA ones, I don't know, the girls are typically like bratty, disrespectful, incredibly sarcastic, but in a way that does not make it humorous for me. I don't know, I struggle with her books already. But then when that 2019 revised version came out of So Not Happening, I was actually enjoying it a bit more because a lot of like that pop culture and all that kind of stuff was removed. But then that bonus scene was added at the end and I was not happy. Question number 2, I rarely read this genre, but I loved this book. And this was a pretty hard question for me to answer because I'm pretty open to most anything in the Christian fiction umbrella. Hence why my TBR is the size it is. Like, it's a big TBR, physically and on Goodreads. So I'm pretty open to most things. I don't really like thriller, but I've read some suspense books that could kind of toe that line. So I thought maybe nonfiction. And for that, I would say Katie Davis Majors because I've enjoyed all 3 of her books. But if we want to go a little more than like big genre, let's go a smaller genre and say dual time period. I'm not a big dual time period fan because I always feel like I get jostled in between. So we have a historical time period typically and then a contemporary time period. And it goes back and forth every couple chapters or every chapter. And that just throws me out of the story so much, so I'm not a big fan of that. Because as soon as something interesting is happening in one time period, chapter ends and we're back to the other time period. And I'm just like, what? Why would you do this to me? It makes me want to like skip ahead and just read what I was interested in, which I don't do. I do not skip chapters. I don't do that. So it's tempting me in that way. All that said, there has been 2 dual time period books I've enjoyed. Heirlooms by Sandra Byrd is set in the 1950s and present day, and I really liked this one. This is not, I have a version that's all tabbed up, but I have the hardback because I loved this book so much I had to buy 2 copies. I bought the hardback and the paperback, but I haven't tabbed this edition, but my hardback is. But I really enjoyed this one. It had a lot to do with the Korean War and just a lot of Korean culture, and that's something that's very near and dear to my heart as I've been learning Korean for a number of years. So I just absolutely adored this book. And then in the present day time period, it had to do with a flower farm, and I love flowers. I like gardening, so it was just a really good win for me. So this was like, wow, I can like dual time period? Who knew? I didn't know. But recently, I also read The Legacy of Longdale Manor by Carrie Turansky. This is a newer book that was released this past fall, and it was good. You know, I really like this author, so even though I was hesitant about reading this one because of the dual time period one, I was maybe 5% hesitant. Out of 105%, because I don't really like dual time period as a general rule. But I really liked this one. It was sweet. Sometimes dual time period novels can feel like two novellas intersecting, and sometimes I felt that way with this one, just a little bit. But I still really liked it overall. It was very sweet, great faith content, which is very normal for this author. I'll be discussing it more in the recent reads, but if we're gonna go even closer down, like more than just a genre, a specific like kind of plot trope, dual time period, I don't typically like, but I have two that I did. Question number 3 is, I love this trope, but I didn't like this book. Okay, Friends to More, Friends to Lover, I just love it. It's the cutest thing. It is the cutest thing. I just think it's so much fun. A book that did not do it well, though, in my opinion, was You Belong With Me by Tari Faris, maybe is how you pronounce the author's last name. Again, I'll be discussing this one in my next recent reads because it was a recent read. The main girl drove me up a wall. She was driving me crazy. Like, she's like, oh, we're just friends. But then she's noticing his abs at like 20 pages in. It's like, where's your self-respect? Like, I was just losing my mind. I was losing my mind mainly because of that girl. Like, he was a sweetheart, and like a hurt sweetheart. Very hurt because of his childhood and past. But she just drove me crazy. So, you know, it doesn't matter even if I love that plot, that trope. The characters have to be somewhat likable, and I just could not stand her. So that threw that book out. Question number 4. I hate this trope, but I loved this book. Now, this one I wouldn't quite say I loved this book, but I really, really liked it. And for that trope, it would be enemies to lovers. I hear the boos already. I don't do enemies to lovers. We have talked about this a lot this year on this channel, especially in recent reads number 4 and my June reading vlogs. I just don't like it. But a book that made me eat my words, and I talked about it more in my recent reads number 5, I think. Because yeah, my next video should be recent reads number 6. I'll have cards and all the info in the description if you want to hear more. But that would be Wedding at Sea by Melissa Tagg. She made this she made this trope. Wow. Like, I was like, wow. If all enemies to lovers was like this, it'd be great. Because they weren't really enemies. It was more of like antagonists to lovers, or they communicated in like glaring and sarcasm and eye rolls and banter, and I was here for that. That was so much fun. This is book 3 in a series though, and I highly, 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 highly like implore you, not just suggest, I implore you to read them in order. Just saying. Book 1 and 2 were very cute as well, but book 3 was just like so much fun, and there's a mystery throughout the series. It's a great series. Very sweet, I would say, for older high school girls, because it's the romance noticing and all that, but they were very cute. Lillian and Wilder, like their banter, they just like, it wasn't necessarily a misunderstanding that spurred off why they didn't like each other. It was, he did something that he didn't even remember, and she was just like hurt by it because of a comment, but like they never had like a romantic interest in each other. So they just like tease and torment the other, and that was great. So like if it's enemies to lovers like this, it's great. If it's enemies to lovers, or they're trying to kill each other, or they're being petty, yeah, no thanks. But this was cute. Question number 5, I love this author, but I didn't like this book. And now here's the thing. We're going to go with the actual definition of love, and that is like they are in my prayer list daily because I just love these two people so much. And that's Janice Hannah Thompson and Erin Mangum. You already know my top 2 favorite authors. I've liked all their books. Like, maybe one has received like a 3 or a 3.5, but I still liked it. In my opinion, a 3 is still, I liked it. They've never gotten less than that I can recall, because they're fantastic and they're my favorite authors for a reason, so I don't have an answer for this one. Question number 6. I previously disliked a book by this author, but I loved this book. And for me, when I dislike a book, it's typically due to content. And if you know my blog, you know me. I don't like a lot of heavy romance. I don't like the kisses to be insanely detailed. I'm not a fan of any of that. So if I DNF a book or if I dislike a book because of its content, I'm going to be leery about the author's other books. I will probably give her books another try once or twice if a plotline interests me. But typically I'm right. Like, not to sound conceited or anything, but typically I'm correct in my assumption that if this author writes heavy romance in one book, that might be her style, and all her other books are going to have heavy romance or detailed kisses or whatever. So, on that, I mean, there's been random authors I randomly don't like one of their books, so like Karen Whittemire, Elizabeth Camden, Melody Carlson, but I've enjoyed other books. But I wouldn't say I loved any of them. There's ones I enjoyed because of the plotline, and then there's other ones I didn't like because of the content. So, don't really have an answer for this one. I even looked through all the books I've given 1 star to on Goodreads. Trauma, can I just say? To have to re-look through all of those at once, that was painful. So, don't have an answer for this one, really. There's been different ones, like I don't randomly like 1 or 2 books by this author, but I like a bunch of their other books, kind of thing. So I don't really have a specific one, though, I can answer for this. Question number 7. I love this cover, but I didn't like this book. Unrivaled by Sari Mitchell. I had to really look, and it's a really pretty cover. I originally gave it 4 stars when I read it as, like, I don't know, what was I, 13, 14, 15 maybe? And I bumped it down to a 2.5 when I reread it a couple years ago, maybe a few now at this point. Because it's enemies to lovers, yes, but it was like that instant attraction. Then they find out the other's family background, and it's like, oh, you're my sworn enemy kind of thing. But they're still thinking about the other. And there was just a couple comments with her that, like, she made that was just like, whoa, girl, this is, we're borderline in insanity here. Because, like, at one point she said that, like, hell was too good of a place for him. And I was like, we don't wish anybody to go to hell. As a Christian, we don't do that. Like, girl. And they had a lot of, like, hatefulness and just plain ridiculous, childish pettiness. And I was just like, no. So, unfortunately, when I reread the book with more wisdom, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is, yeah, this book was a no, but gorgeous cover. Gorgeous cover. Love the cover. And then question number 8, the last question for this tag is, I don't like this cover, but I loved this book. And again, loved is a little bit of a stretch for this one. And this was probably the hardest question to answer on this tag. And I think that's just because I'm a pretty easy sell on covers. If it's remotely pretty, if it's got a girl in a pretty dress, you know, I'm satisfied. There are ones I will say are beautiful covers. And then there's just ones that's like, yeah, it's a nice cover. I have no other opinion. But for a recent read that I liked the story and the cover just didn't sell it to me, and I truly, like, I ignored the cover when I started reading this book, would be Mechanical Heart by Sarah Pennington. This is I don't think it's considered Christian fiction, but there is mentions of scripture and God by another name, like that's very typical in fantasy. This was a steampunk one, and it was very, very loosely a Rapunzel retelling, very loosely, but it was a lot of fun, and there was no romance in it, so hey, if you're looking for that, check it out. It was a really fun read. Again, I'll be discussing it in my next recent reads video, but it was really entertaining. The cover just doesn't do it for me. But the story inside was really good, and that's the important part. We're not supposed to be judging books by covers. No, not supposed to do that. But if it's a pretty cover, it doesn't hurt. So there we go. That was the Contradictions book tag. This was so much fun to film. Thank you so much to Rachel and Sarah for tagging me. Thank you. I loved watching everyone's videos. I'm not sure who's all done this video. I feel like I'm one of the last ones, if not the last one, in our little Christian book community. So if there's anyone who has not done that and wants to do it, please consider yourself tagged. Let me know that you're going to do it, and I will put you in the description that you are tagged, kind of thing. Like, just let me know. So that's it for this video. This was so much fun to film. I really like tag videos. I need to film more of them. I always get so like, oh, I need to film recent reads. I've read so many books, but I need to film more tag videos because they're lots of fun. And I have a few tags that I've been also tagged in. But I was inspired to do this one. So I'm coming back to do the other ones. If you've tagged me to do other book video tags, I'm coming. I will do them, I promise. This one just caught my attention right away, so I had to film it now. I suppose that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know your answers to any of these, particularly the covers. Is there like a cover that you don't like but you liked the book? Because like in Christian fiction, I feel like we have a really good repertoire of book covers and like they're all pretty decent. Some are prettier than others. Some are like, it's fine. There's some that I'm not a fan of, but I haven't read those. So if there's any you like that you've read, but you didn't like the cover, let me know. I'm very curious about that. And then I will see y'all next time, hopefully. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your day. I am Lindsey from the blog booksforchristiangirls.blogspot.com, where there is a new review every Monday and Friday. I am also on Instagram and TikTok and Goodreads. And then we also have a newsletter where you can sign up to receive 2 to 3 emails every month about what's going on with Books for Christian Girls and all of our many social media pages, because it's a lot to keep up with sometimes, and I hope you'll sign up maybe by the link in the description. I will put it down there, and I hope y'all have an absolutely lovely rest of your day. That's all I gotta say. Bye!